This is the funniest place to say he ended 7 wars because the dudes who he has supposedly ended the wars of are there in the room. This is one of the only places where you can't say that because they're in the room with you. You know what I mean? They could be like, no, you didn't do that. He is like a toddler and he has no interest whatsoever in abiding by norms or even making it seem as though like these other European leaders have any sort of autonomy. And there's not really much people can do. Anyway, but yeah, there's some French updates for you guys. Also, Trump was forced to walk up the UN headquarters escalators after the malfunction. Real Antichrist hours. His fat ass done bricked it, dude. UN blames Trump's team for both the escalator. A UN official said the UN understands that some of the president's... Wait, what? Hold on, let me fix the gray bars again. Bad escalator, President Trump referred to during his address to the UN Assembly. A UN official said the UN understands that someone from the president's party who ran ahead of him inadvertently triggered the stop mechanism on the escalator. The official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said the White House was operating a teleprompter for Trump. So he's the one who bricked the teleprompter and he's the one who bricked the escalator. I totally believe this. You seeing this? Nothing works. Nothing works. Nothing works. And then his teleprompter malfunctioned while he was giving his Antichrist speech at the UN, obviously, which is expected, which, for the record, is I mean, he loves freestyling anyway, right?
Don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you, nevertheless. And that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
I mean, he is like...
In a period...
Let's be real. Let's be real. Off the cuff, he is goated off the cuff, usually. Okay, he's got it. He's got it. He still sometimes has it. This was one of those he's still got it moments. Not that it matters because, I mean, he is a demon. He is a straightforward demon, okay? We are in official demon time. I don't know how else to explain it to you. We are 100% officially, firmly in demon time. I watched some of the... I watched some of his speech this morning where he talked about how climate change is fake. How he said that the United Nations is a purposeless organization, which is kind of true, but not in the way that he implies it. You have made it a purposeless organization. So he went off on a bunch of different shit.
In a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7...
He demanded that he get a look for the Nobel Peace Prize. This is the funniest place to say he ended 7 wars because the dudes who he has supposedly ended the wars of are there in the room. Okay? This is one of the only places where you can't say that because they're in the room with you. You know what I mean? They could be like, no, you didn't do that. That's actually still... We're still warring, big dog. Obviously, he still can get away with it. I was talking to my dad about this, and he was like, "Do you think they'll actually cut him off? Because there's a time limit for how long you can go." And I was like, "Of course not. They're not going to do that." And of course, they didn't, because he's Trump and he gets to do whatever he wants to do. And I think that, like, and I've said this before. Trump's behavior and his narcissism has made it impossible to ignore the power dynamic that exists. Okay? he is like a toddler, and he has no interest whatsoever in abiding by norms or even making it seem as though like these other European leaders have any sort of autonomy, any sort of sovereignty. So he just makes them genuflect over and over and over again. He just bullies people over and over again. And there's not really much people can do. I'm sure they hate it personally, but it's kind of like with Israel. You know, you can hate Israel, but ultimately you just got to do its bidding, right? And that is where we're at. I guess the one thing that I find to be good here is that this kind of destroys the notion of like international rule-based order and all this stuff that like liberals have deluded themselves into believing. Do you ever talk to your chat or just shit on them? No, I talk to my chat all the time. You recognize you make money riling people up to hate the other site. Which site are you talking about? You a grifter like Candace Owens. The other site like Rumble or Kick, is that what you're talking about? It's just interesting because like I also criticize both sides pretty hard. That's why a lot of Democrats say I'm a spoiler and I'm actually not invested in like a real positive vision for this country, and I'm simply invested in like destroying the Democratic Party more than the Republicans. But of course, that's not the case either. Anyway.
Unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, two of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia.
I mean, obviously, he didn't do that. Daniel Dale hit the fact check on this. We're back. We're so back. Liberalism is so back. Ooh, I'm fact checking. Okay, we got fact checking. We got fact checkers. Egypt-Ethiopia dispute was over an Ethiopian dam. There was no raging war that thousands killed. There was no Serbia-Kosovo active war to stop. Congo-Rwanda is not resolved and hostilities continue. India denies Trump mediated any ceasefire. Inflation is not defeated and rising 2.9% from 2.7%. Grocery prices are up due to tariffs. U.S. electricity costs are up 6.2% year over year. There is no $17 trillion in U.S. investment. His own press secretary cited around $9 trillion, and even that is dubious. China is the world leader in wind power usage.
Various countries. There are a lot of issues there. So first of all, some of the conflicts he's counting as wars he resolved were not actually wars at all. For example, Egypt and Ethiopia have argued over an Ethiopian dam project on the Blue Nile, but they were not in a raging war in which thousands of people were being killed. Similarly, Trump has claimed that he prevented conflict between Serbia and Kosovo from resuming, but they were not in a raging war either. In addition, the conflict involving the Democratic Republic of Congo and neighboring Rwanda has not actually been resolved. We have good reporting from just a day ago talking about how hostilities have continued despite the peace deal that was signed under President Trump. And then in addition to that, India denies that President Trump was responsible for mediating its ceasefire, its truce with neighboring Pakistan. So a whole lot of issues with just that one claim. And Pamela, there were a whole bunch of other claims that were just out and out false. So I don't even have time to run through all of them. But on inflation, President Trump said that grocery prices are down during this presidency. They're up, and the pace of the increases is accelerating as the tariffs take.
I used to make fun of these guys, but honestly, I'm wrong. Okay? I used to make fun of the debunkers, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm debunking. But like low key, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you got till it's gone. They pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Ooh la 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 la. With respect to the debunkers, okay? It turns out that the debunkers were actually doing the most basic component of mainstream media, okay, which was absolutely a necessity. And I never thought that I would welcome Daniel Dale back with open arms, okay? It turns out it is a necessity. It is an absolute necessity. But not only is it good to be equipped with this knowledge, okay? Not only is it good to be equipped with the knowledge, with the truth, but it's also important for these guys to basically keep addressing the truth whenever they are talking to Donald Trump. I know that it has become increasingly more difficult, but God damn it, until I saw the entirety of liberal media completely cave to the post-truth method of Donald Trump, until I watched it happen in real time, did I not realize how important it was to just have like some debunkers
take effect. He has claimed that inflation has been defeated in general. No, inflation is also accelerating. It was 2.9% last month, up from 2.7%. He said that European electricity bills are high, which is true, but that ours are coming way down. No, in the US, they are increasing sharply, up 6.2%.
Directly as a consequence of the data centers, from what I understand.
In August compared to a year prior. And there were a whole bunch of other topics. He claimed that he has secured $17 trillion in investment in the US. Well, just
guys, I don't care about Ryan Ruth, okay? I don't care. Please, I will get to it later. I don't know why you guys think like this is the most imminent, most important story I must cover. Yes, Ryan Ruth wanted to save Ukraine, wanted to save NATO, and he was found guilty, and then he tried to kill himself in the court or something. I don't know. We'll get to it later. Okay, calm down. Jesus Christ.
Yesterday, his own White House press secretary said it was about $9 trillion in investment. So I don't know where the additional $8 trillion in a day has come from. And even that initial $9 trillion the press secretary claimed is highly dubious, counting a whole bunch of things that aren't actually spending, but rather are vague commitments from various countries. You and Kylie addressed the environmental claims. I just want to address one more. He claimed that China builds a lot of wind turbines and manufactures them for others, but refuses to use it itself, barely uses wind power. In fact, China is the world leader in the use of wind power. It is building additional wind power in China far faster than the pace at which the U.S. is building in the United States itself. So the idea that China is just, foisting this terrible source of energy on other countries while refusing to use it is a reversal of reality.
I forgot. I'm here to say once again, only until CNN completely stopped doing this and just started reporting on Trump's insane statements as is, did I realize that, no, this is much better. This is bare minimum, but it's much, much better. I am not making fun of the debunkers any longer, okay? I apologize to the debunkers. You were right to do it. I'm glad that you're still doing it. Please give Daniel Dale more space. Jesus Christ, it is... We have arrived at a post-truth universe. Someone has to be honest, please. Why did you make fun of them in the first place? Because they're nerdy, and I'm an idiot. That's why. But also, I mean, the real reason is because the debunkers also will use that debunking status to sometimes debunk like things that are not wrong. Like whenever Bernie Sanders says some shit about like Medicare or something, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm debunking."
And Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan.
At least he got the names right this time. He didn't say like Albania and Cambodia or whatever. I mean, that's good, right? It's like a child. Our president has a child brain, because last time I think he said something like just not a real country. He said something like Aberdeen and Albania or something. Yeah, Azerbaijan and Albania. Anyway.
It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do the...
I've actually never encountered a hog in the wild that believes this, by the way. Like, most hogs are still kind of stuck. Like, no matter how MAGA adjacent they are, they're still kind of stuck on the whole, I was going to end the war in Russia, in Ukraine, and end the war in Gaza day one. Because that was such a big claim that obviously he was never going to complete. Well, he could have if he had enough interest in preserving the humanity of Palestinians. He could have just like stopped Israel for sure. But I have yet to hear from a hog in the wild that unironically is like, yeah, no, he's the peaceful president. How dare you? You just hate that he's like ending wars or whatever. Maybe they're out there. I'm sure there are. But we're obviously going to get to his Ukraine position, which is now flipped back to the norm, the American foreign policy apparatus position. But, you know, it took him 9 months to get there. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's finish this.
These things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous.
I just don't understand, like, you basically use the UN like a fleshlight, right? That it serves its purpose that way. It's supposed to create an environment of like robust international cooperation at the behest of America's goals. And that is precisely what it has done. That is precisely the reason, for example, why the United Nations has not been able to get any motion on numerous things that the rest of the planet agree on universally, like food being considered a human right, for example. It's like America and Israel don't like it, so it doesn't matter. Or lifting the unjustifiable trade embargo on Cuba. The rest of the planet agrees on it. The United Nations agrees on it. Doesn't really matter. America just says, nope, it doesn't matter. So what I don't understand is like, or the million different ceasefire resolutions and things of that nature where America says, nope, we're defending Israel. We're attached to the hip with Israel. It don't matter. Oh, by the way, Macron is now live with Trump. We'll go there. Okay. And we'll see what's up.
But after almost 2 years of war, what is the result? Once again, they killed the top leaders of Hamas. It works. This is a great achievement.
Oh,
but
great
at the same
achievement.
time, you have as many Hamas fighters as you had the first day. So it doesn't work to dismantle the Hamas. This is not the right way to proceed. So we need a full-fledged process, and we worked very hard on the day after, and I totally share the sequencing. The release of all hostages, the ceasefire, resume of humanitarian aid. The day after in Gaza to stabilize the land. And we need a political perspective, and this is why we took this decision on recognition.
Well, I have to say that I'm on the side of Israel. I've been on the side of Israel really my whole life. And we are going to get a solution. And it's going to be a solution, hopefully, that's good for everybody. But it's time to stop. We're going to have that very important meeting. I think the meeting we have coming up in the next hour is going to be one of the most important meetings.
What is this?
We'll
It's like
have here.
1P,
We've had some
bro.
important meetings.
Why is the camera 1P? Do we have a better footage of this?
Where you are and where other people are too. And we just have to get this solved. We have to get the hostages back. We want to get the war over. That's very important. We're going to end the war, get the hostages back, and we want them all back. We don't want to have one and then we'll give another 2 in about 3 months from now. We've been doing that for a long time. And in all fairness, we've gotten a lot of hostages back. But you have 20 hostages and you have probably 38 bodies, dead bodies. And the people that I see, and I speak to Israeli families. I was speaking to American families before, but we got them back. But I speak to Israeli families, and they want the son who died. They want their dead son back as much as though he were alive. And it's an amazing thing to see, and it's a horrible thing actually to witness, but I've seen it a lot. So they have 20 hostages, they have 38 dead bodies, and we have to have them back, and we have to have them back immediately. Thank you very much, everybody.
That's all they care about, bro.
Thank you so much.
That's all they care about. It's crazy. It's crazy that that's the conversation. It's like, do you not, like, no one turns around, even Macron, who's like flexing here by showing how different he is from Donald Trump and how much he's disagreeing with Donald Trump. Like, no one could just turn around and be like, dude, what are we talking about here, man? What do you mean the bodies? Like, Israel doesn't care. It's a genocide. It's no excuses. There are no excuses for genocide. Okay, we're talking about possibly 600,000 plus Palestinians severely wounded, killed, displaced, and you guys are still talking about October 7th. Shut the f up. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Trump wants eternal war in the name of the hostages while the family members of the hostages oppose it and want a negotiated settlement. Pure evil, man. Pure evil. Pure evil. All right, let's continue with this dipshit.
But it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements.
Nobody says that. Only your dick
riders say that, dumbass. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with their mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. Will ensure that the system works for everyone.
Trump slams Brazil and Lula. Without U.S. support, your country's going to be bad. There was another thing that happened this past week that we didn't even talk about, obviously, but Argentina. It turns out Argentina and the Ancapistan methods that Javier Milei implemented was bullshit. They need another bailout. Oh my God. Isn't that wonderful how that works? Socialism is always a failure because we have to obviously put our hand on the scales. And capitalism is always a success. And that's precisely the reason why we have to, once again, put our hand on the scale to ensure that it continues. The libertarian way, baby. I thought this was a resounding success. What happened? Every liberal, every market understander was talking about how, Milei was actually saving Argentina. What happened? 43% poverty. Poverty is like exploding. Meanwhile, they're getting another bailout. Why is Javier Milei, the world's leading libertarian, kept getting bailed out now at the expense of the American taxpayer? You'd think he'd reject government handouts. Milei is turning to the U.S. after tapping $20 billion from the IMF this year, stretching the fund's capacity for further bailouts to the limit. Argentina had missed its initial IMF targets to rebuild foreign exchange reserves before heavy intervention last week. The country makes up almost half of the IMF's roughly $125 billion in outstanding lending worldwide, far ahead of other big borrowers such as Ukraine and Egypt. Yeah, just like Ayn Rand, baby. This is how libertarians work. Always and forever. The U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent has said all options are on the table for the Trump administration to support Argentina through a bout of severe market volatility. Trump endorsed Milei on camera today when he was asked about the bailouts.
We have a lot of meetings scheduled, but I wanted to meet with the president of Argentina, and we both wanted to meet with friends. He's done a fantastic job, and I'm doing something that I don't often do. I'm giving a full endorsement to him. We just endorsed him for president. As you know, he has a race coming up, and I'm sure he's going to do well, but now I think this hopefully assures it. And to the people of Argentina, we're backing him 100%. We think he's done a fantastic job. He, like us, inherited a mess. And
bro, that's how you know he's been dog shit, okay? Make no mistake. That is how you know he's been dog shit, because our dog shit president is endorsing him. That's enough. That's enough for me to know he sucks. But it's cool. Argentina is also very firmly committed to the continuation of Israel's genocide. So they're the good guys. God, I hate this world so much. We are like, we're cooking everybody, man. We're taking everybody out with us.
What he's done to fix it is good, and Scott is working.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. Pretty illustrative of the sheer madness of our era that this news is barely registering. South Korea's sitting president literally just said that paying the imperial tribute demanded by the U.S. would bankrupt his country. Well, at least he's less cucked than the EU leaders. We Europeans were told by von der Leyen that our own $1+ trillion tribute deserved our gratitude to President Trump personally for his leadership, and that it would somehow benefit us. Yeah. This is why I said empires don't die quietly, okay? They strike all around to its closest allies as well on their way out.
With their countries so that they can get good debt and all of the things that you need to make Argentina great again. So it's an honor for me to endorse the president and the future president of Argentina. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's your endorsement. That wasn't bad. Now we can get out of here.
I mean, dude, just on optics alone, man, just on optics alone, how do you vote for a guy that looks like this, bro? How do you get yourself to vote for a dude that looks like that? You are so unimaginably stupid. You looked at a guy that looks like that and you were like, that's my guy. So stupid. Yeah. People watched this guy and voted 3 times for him. Yeah, that's his hero. Like Captain ANCAP or something. I forget what it's called. Oh, everything is so ass.
Los ingresos no aguantarán más, iremos al Banco Central, y eso será inflacionario, si no le aflojan al gato, entonces la crisis vendrá. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
What do you say? What do you do? What do you say? What do you do? He also is famous for doing a cryptocurrency rug pull, but then again, that's one cryptocurrency rug pull president to another cryptocurrency rug pull president. Obviously, they're united in that front as well. Fantastic stuff, man. Fantastic.
Are you going to help bail out Argentina, Mr. President?
Well, we're going to help them. I don't think they need a bailout. They're going to. He's done a fantastic job.
He's like, no, we do, Mr. President. No, we do. We do need a bailout, please. We need it bad.
If you look at where they were when he first ran for office and where they are now, Scott, I would say that it's pretty amazing the job he's done.
So the transformation's unbelievable. He inherited the same kind of mess you did, and he's doing the same kind of job.
He's doing a
Yeah, no, literally. Yes. No, exactly. They're right. He is doing the same kind of job that you're doing, which is bad. It's dog shit. So yeah, you're right. Just not in the direction. It's not exactly a positive moment. He's being a good little boy. Let's give him hundreds of billions of dollars now, please.
Really good job. And we've watched it very closely. We've worked with him and the people of Argentina.
He's going to become a Peronist again, okay? That's it. Argentina cannot exist if it's not in some way, shape, or form demonstrating Peronism. That's what he's going to do. He's going to take the bailout money and he's going to start beefing up social safety nets modestly.
It's a great place. It's a truly, it's a really, as you know, I've been there. It's a truly beautiful country, and he's going to be very successful, and he's going to be very successful in the election. I think to complete the job, the great job that he's doing, he needs the next term, and he's going to get it based on everything I can say.
Secretary Bessie, you said it would be a large and forceful response from the United States. Could you provide any more details on what that intervention?
Well, you know what it is. He has our backing. and having our backing. We're doing incredibly well as a country. We've never done this well, actually, as a country, including the stock market, which is setting new records virtually every day. And we are...
Yeah, keep talking about the stock market doing well. I'm sure all of your voters that are from the states that may already be experiencing a recession, by the way, love when they hear about the stock portfolio doing well. I love this because this is the same shit that the Democrats were trying to do as well, where it's like, oh, the recession is not real. It's a vibe session. Everything is great. Shut the fuck up. And people were like, no, everything is not great, actually. Yeah. Keep thinking about Tylenol and how it's causing people to be autistic or whatever. I'm sure that'll be enough to soothe the masses. Yeah, here is the net approval. YouGov polling on inflation shows Trump's current approval on the issue is essentially the same as Biden's historically low approval during his presidency. He's already hit the Brandon line right here. Fantastic. Net 34% disapproval. How far can we go? CNN were saying Americans think Trump and GOP are doing good on the economy. What do you make of that? Listen to me. Liberals also have a role to play in this. Okay? Liberals and their lack of interest in addressing the material harm that average Americans are experiencing is what gave us Donald Trump in 2016. And then their consistent efforts to also continue refusing to address the material harms that Americans were experiencing gave us Trump again. They can say people are doing great, but the broader reasons why people don't feel so great about the economy are still there. No one is fixing them. The housing market is like one of the most consequential aspects of this problem. No one wants to fix it. Part of that is because wealthier people who have access to capital, homeowners, because home ownership is seen as the only way to develop a nest egg, the only way to develop like any sort of capital accumulation, because it's tied back to your net worth, and you can leverage against it as an asset, and you can get mortgages out and stuff like that, is the only upward social mobility mechanism that remains. And those people don't want the housing market to turn around. It's still, I mean, it's a much worse percentage of ownership, home ownership in this country than all of the other nations, especially if you go to like Eastern Bloc, former Soviet countries and whatnot, where it's like upwards of 90%. Having said that, that's still a pretty significant chunk of the people who actually go out and vote. A significant chunk of the people who go out and vote consistently, reliably, they are homeowners. Okay? And therefore, no one is choosing to address the inventory issues. No one is choosing to address how we are utilizing home ownership. It is what it is. Okay? So that's one major issue. But the broad majorities are experiencing tremendous discontent, tremendous issues, because it's just unaffordable. It's unaffordable to rent. It's getting more and more costly year over year. So that's one aspect of it. Okay? That's one problem that they are never fixing. First stream I've tuned into where Hasan is actually here and not just his chair. Wait, what? I don't think you've ever tuned in to this stream before. Do you think I turn on the stream? I turn on the broadcast and it's just my chair for like 8 hours every day? What the hell? What the helly? I got raptured. Anyway, so that's one of the big problems, right? That's one of the big problems of home ownership. Education, another mechanism for upward social mobility, is also incredibly costly. That's not being fixed. Healthcare, something that you need to live, also incredibly costly, also getting increasingly more expensive for average Americans. Okay, medical debt is a reality in this country. It's something that doesn't exist elsewhere. Okay, that's another major factor in the economic anxieties that people experience. When you cut all of that out and you try to do a consumer price index off of like the cost of groceries that also are increasing as well, right? You arrive at this predicament. Hold on.
We are very much a fan of the job that he's done.
So he can just say things are good. The stock market performance is great over and over again till the cows come home. But it's obviously not going to solve the issues. Okay. It's not fixing the anxieties that people have. It's not fixing anything at all. And it's something that you can't just like convince people out of. Okay. If your pockets are hurting, your pockets are hurting. There is nothing that the administration can say that can change that reality. If you have no solutions to that, if people don't actually experience some kind of relief, some kind of economic relief, then they're going to be mad. They're going to be mad regardless. And in all of that madness and in all that anger, you could maybe redirect some of that anxiety, some of that anger back to like trans people, Guatemalans, Venezuelans, Haitians, and the like. But not everyone is as predisposed with like harming people who are seemingly of a lower status than they are. People eventually can snap out of it and go, what the f-? You did ban the transgender athletes and it didn't actually fix my situation at all.
Is sustainable into the future. We're also using tariffs to defend our sovereignty and security throughout the world, including against nations that have taken advantage of former U.S. administrations for decades, including the most corrupt, incompetent administration in history, the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Brazil now faces major tariffs in response to its unprecedented efforts to interfere in the rights and freedoms of our American citizens and others, with censorship, repression, weaponization, judicial corruption, and targeting of political critics in the United States. I have a little...
Dog, he's just mad that Brazil actually did the thing that like a competent government is supposed to do in the aftermath of a political opposition party engaging in lawfare, unjustly prosecuting their political opponents, jailing them, and then also doing a failed insurrection. That's what you're supposed to do. It's like the bare minimum. What do you mean? And he's just mad. He's just mad that there is a major country out there, a major power out there, a regional power, that is competent enough to do that. He's like, oh, I don't want anybody to learn the wrong lessons here. Lula is doing to Bolsonaro what the Democrats should have done to Donald Trump. It's ridiculous.
Problem saying this because I must tell you, I was walking in and the leader of Brazil was walking out. We saw him and I saw him, he saw me, and we embraced. And then I'm saying, can you believe I'm going to be saying this in just 2 minutes? We actually agreed that we would meet next week. We didn't have much time to talk, like about 20 seconds.
Not government, judiciary. No, it doesn't matter. I'm saying, when I say government, I mean broad, okay? All arms of the government, including the judiciary.
And they were in retrospect, I'm glad I waited because this thing didn't work out too well. But we did talk. We had a good talk, and we agreed to meet next week, if that's of interest.
Put him in the
But
Lula,
he seemed like
please,
a very
sir.
nice man, actually. He liked me, I liked him. But if you, and I only do business with people I like. When I don't like them, I don't like them. But we had, at least for about 39 seconds, we had excellent chemistry. It's a good sign. But also in the past, Brazil, can you believe this, unfairly tariffed our nation, but now because of our tariffs, we are hitting them back, and we're hitting them back very hard. As president, I will always defend our national sovereignty and the rights of American citizens. So I'm very sorry to say this, that Brazil is doing poorly and will continue to do poorly. They can only do well when they're working with us. Without us, they will fail, just as others have failed. It's true. Next year, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our glorious independence, a testament to enduring power and American freedom and spirit. We will also be proudly hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and shortly thereafter, the 2028 Olympics, which is going to be very exciting. I hope you all come. I hope that countless people from all over the globe will take part of these will be great celebrations of liberty and human achievement, and that together we all can rejoice in the miracles of history that began in July 4th. 1770. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it. And I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor.
This is a shot at Zoran, by the way. You think he's like talking to Sadiq Khan, but he's actually making a statement in New York about the upcoming mayor, Zoran Mamdani, which, for the record, is so crazy for the American president to state. Like, this is so racist. Like, the other version of this is like, the Jews are controlling New York and they want to, have you seen the Talmud? Have you seen the Talmud? They want to do Talmud things in New York. They want to call it Jew York. Like, that's what this is. And the reason why I have to flip the script in this way is because, like, that's the only thing that Americans are tuned into, that they can comprehend. They just can't see it as like Islamophobia as a real thing, as a real bigotry, a real form of bigotry. It's so crazy.
And it's been so changed. So changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't.
No one is doing that. Shut the. Oh my God.
Do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained.
Is he mentally ill? Yes, he is a mentally ill fascist. That's what it is. He is an insane fascist. Fascism, in the most like permissible version right now internationally, is against Muslims. You could just be like, you could say anything and everything is because of Islam. Okay, what used to get a lot of play in fascist circles in like the 30s was blaming everything on the Jews. Now they blame everything on Islam. That's it. That is a more appropriate target because Israel obviously exists, and Israel itself is a fascist entity. And therefore, there is this like international coalition of other fascist powers and fascist politicians that see Israel as a like-minded enterprise. You have to always have an enemy. Fascists always have to have an immediate outgroup that is somehow responsible for everything that's going on. Now as Muslims.
What makes the world so beautiful is that each country is unique. But to stay this way, every sovereign nation must have the right to control their own borders. You have the right to control your borders, as we do now, and to limit the sheer numbers of migrants.
Yeah, Nick Fuentes says Israel's a bigger gross positive to America than Muslims. By the way, isn't that nuts that like these guys so quickly were like, actually, this neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, like, as long as he like lowers the temperature on like his overt anti-Semitism, he's good by us.
Do you think has been a bigger net positive to America?
Like, he's on Patrick Bet David. He's everywhere now. Immediately, everyone was like, actually, this is great. Like, the word Nazi has no power anymore. And I know people will say, oh, it's because you called everything Nazi. This guy is a straight up Holocaust denying neo-Nazi, right? Like, he's just straight up. It's like the most unacceptable position you can have in American politics. Obviously, white supremacy doesn't get the same level of play, but now that Israel has basically depleted all of its cultural cachet by actively, all of these advocacy groups have depleted all of their legitimacy by constantly defending Israel. This is not even a point of contention anymore. It's no longer an issue. It's actually a positive. Being anti-Semitic is seen as like as being an earnest, an honest, good faith actor. A guy who says things that are too hard for people to comprehend. But of course, once again, guys who are engaging or trafficking in anti-Semitic conspiracies, who claim that they're anti-Israel, seemingly don't have all that much issue with Israel when push comes to shove. You can't trust fascists ever, okay? It's that simple.
Oh, well, it has to be Israel, absolutely.
Okay, so a part about that part.
But, well, in terms of, I wouldn't say net positive. I would say in terms of raw, maybe like gross positive. Because they've had a lot of contributions culturally and even, in terms of art, literature, music.
But Hossie is still right about Israel. No, he's not. It's just a talking point, man. It's just a talking point. And you dummies are already eating it. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to deport everyone and anyone that is not considered white in this country. That's it. His hatred for Israel only stems from what he believes is Jewish control, okay? But he still, at the end of the day, absolutely despises Muslims, black people, more than he despises the state of Israel. It's so crazy that, like, a lot of people just ate up this propaganda and we're like, well, he was always anti-Israel. It's like, yeah, he was, okay? He was. He's anti-Semitic, he's anti-Israel, but obviously his more consequential agenda here is not to make America decouple from Israel or make America recalculate its allegiance to Israel, as is my goal, right? Because Israel is a violent, settler, colonial, criminal entity that is objectively fascist in its inception. Its ideology is fascist. Its ideology is ethno-religious supremacist. It's exterminationist. It's doing a genocide. So if you don't have those kinds of opinions, even if you every now and then bring that up in an effort to win favor with like a lot of dummies, and you just simply think that it's like Jewish control over America or something because of the Talmud or whatever the fuck this guy says, okay, then you're not actually all that invested in the Israel narratives. You're just simply using that to communicate your earnesty. And as the attitude has shifted against Israel, he has become one of the primary truth tellers, in air quotes, on Israel because he's been punished so much for his anti-Semitism. But ultimately, he is a room reader. And as a room reader, he recognizes that if he moderates his position now, then he can maybe capture the attention of larger swaths of the Republican Party's youth and keep pushing the Republican Party to lean further and further into mass deportation and punishing people for being communists, punishing people for being socialists, punishing people for being black and brown, punishing women. It's so wild how many people were so easily duped by this shit.
Also scientifically. But it's difficult to say on that because I also think that there's quite a bit of a detriment. I think that the melting pot comes from the Jewish community.
What do you mean by that?
The idea of the melting pot, that comes from a Jewish playwright. Because Jewish people come to America and like all immigrants, they say, well, we want America to be more welcoming. So they start to spin up these ideas that, well, America was never the...
Like, this is pure fascist propaganda, right? Like, the notion that America is a diverse country, and it's the same thing that the Nazis said about the Jews in the past. The idea that, like, we can't be multicultural, and there is a superior culture that is being eradicated deliberately by this monolithic force of Jews that are single-handedly changing American collective consciousness into being more open-minded to immigration, and that this is not simply born out of, by the way, his name is Nicholas Fuentes, for the record. He is literally Hispanic, but I'm not even going to get into that. But basically, this is pure fascist belief. This scary out group is actually coming in to the superior Western culture, superior white country, and is making it by force multicultural in an effort to destroy it. This is exactly what the Nazis believed, and this is exactly what Nick Fuentes believes because he's a Nazi.
This country of white Christians, it's always been a melting pot for all immigrants. They want the country to be more open because that makes it more comfortable for them. It makes it more tolerant for them. But this has also made us more open and tolerant for Muslims, for example. We're bringing, I mean, who's been the biggest driver of like the Hart-Celler 65 Immigration Act? It was like the SPLC, which is run by Jewish lawyers. And so they're major drivers of mass migration. They're also major drivers of the pro-Israel politics, like the Iraq War. It was many Jewish journalists and pundits and advocates.
Sure.
So a point being is like when you calculate on net, and I agree with you, like I think there are a lot of people that are critical of Israel that are
I think a big problem here also, stems from the reality that most people don't know how fascism operates. They just think like Hitler, bad guy, killed a lot of Jews. That's why we fought Hitler. I talked about this before. That's not the case. Okay. And because a lot of people don't understand how fascism developed in Germany, how fascism developed in Italy, and what the ideology actually represents, because of its closeness to the modern Republican Party, or just the Republican Party for the last 100 years, especially, that by design, most Americans are deluded. They don't realize when like Republicans say, oh, it's cultural Marxism. They don't realize it's like the Nazis used to just slam Judeo-Bolshevism on the front of that and basically say the same shit. These guys want to eradicate any sort of socialist, any sort of leftist, any sort of progressive values, forcibly excise it from society. They falsely believe that white people are this monolithic force of this genetically superior force that if left alone, if were able to build a society on their own, that this society would thrive. And the only way to design that society in a place like America, which is multicultural and incredibly diverse and has benefited greatly from that, the only way for them to design that is by doing concentration camps.
Reluctant to acknowledge the good that Jews do. And I think that Jews they're brilliant. Many of them are brilliant.
So when I'm saying net positive, I'm talking jobs, economy. How often you hear about crime, what they do. Like if you have a choice between living in a city in Minnesota, Dearborn, and living in, I don't know what's the biggest city. What's the city that, Boca Raton, let's just say, right? If you have a choice between raising your family, between Dearborn and Boca Raton, where do you choose?
Boca Raton,
okay,
of course,
so
yeah.
So the point is like, they go to a place, and by the way, to me, if that was Muslims, guess what? I would say Muslims. But statistically, wherever they live, it's safer, things are nicer.
I think one of the most devastating aspects of this is that this kind of Islamophobic comparison between like Jews as a whole versus Muslims as a whole under different circumstances would only be destroyed by a bunch of advocacy groups that have completely dropped the ball, that only care about Israel. And therefore, this actually benefits. Like the ADL is not going to be like, I can't believe Patrick Bet-David is talking to Nicholas Fuentes, who is an objective Nazi who has denied the Holocaust, because they're making this calculation. Gelmek üzere daha doğrusu, ya da gelmediyse. Ha şu anda geldi, dur. Bir dakika dur, kapıyı açıyorum. Bir dakika. Şu anda geldi. 3. Sağ ol.
Things get better.
I agree.
And that is one part to measure where they're at. Now, do I see them overly aggressive? Do I see them the type that are going to use politicians and buy them like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other people are saying? 100%. Do I see them, they're going to be there in everyone's DM and email saying, hey, you know, we'd love to support you. We'd love to bring you to Israel and, you know, doing all that stuff? It's obvious. I'm seeing it myself, okay? Do I look at that and shame them and say, oh, you shame on? I look at that and say, no.
I think this is the modern right trying to find, this is the modern right currently in real time trying to find a way to manage the discontent with Israel while simultaneously talk about how like, well, you know, it's we're pro-Israel obviously because, you know, we're pro-Jew. Israel's a Jewish state, and Jews are still infinitely more valuable to this country than Muslims are. And they're trying to figure out a way to manage this conversation, which is ironically what Charlie Kirk was trying to do as well, for the record. Like, that's precisely what Charlie Kirk was trying to do, because he recognized that, like, people were very angry. And the reason why people were very angry wasn't just because, like, they all downloaded the anti-Semitic conspiracies that, like, Jews control the media, Jews control the government or whatever. They were frustrated with what they were seeing. They were frustrated with the arrogance and the entitlement demonstrated by Israel's envoys. They were frustrated with how much Israel was getting away with doing all this shit with American tax dollars while simultaneously slapping us in the face. And so they are trying to figure out a new way of continuing the allegiance with Israel, which they describe as the Jewish state. Both Nazis and people who are pro-Israel obviously still very much consider Israel to be the Jewish state, right? This is being done for the international Jewry. This is done for Judaism. This is a thing that both Nick Fuentes and Patrick Bet-David agree on. Patrick Bet-David is more on the pro-Israel side. Nick Fuentes is on the anti-Israel side. This is the handshake that the likes of Jake Tapper and the likes of Nick Fuentes agree on, basically. Severing that tie is unacceptable. That is what anti-Zionists do. Anti-Zionists sever that tie, okay? And that is why so many of the efforts from supposed Jewish advocacy groups that are simply Israel advocacy groups have been to try to combat anti-Zionists who actively try to sever this tie. But because of that agreement, they are trying to figure out a way to manage the discourse here. The issue is that it's working amongst regular people. The anti-Semitism is growing and you can't just scold them. I know, especially because the scolding method has almost always been used by Israel advocacy groups. So when you call someone out for being anti-Semitic, immediately they go, what are you, the ADL? Shut the up. It feels like I'm constantly fighting a losing battle here, trying to get Americans to comprehend that like no group of individuals are a monolithic force. It is not the case. Like that is a fundamental principle that many Americans cannot comprehend. This is why for years I tried to explain to people like this is not about, upholding some sort of Jewish supremacy or Jewish exceptionalism or anything of that nature. But instead, it is just about abiding by my principled stance, my commitment to the notion that no one is monolithic. No one is like single-minded. No one is universally behaving in a certain way. Okay? It's quite difficult to convince others. It's very difficult. But having said that, I feel like I'm stuck in this like unique predicament where on the one hand, I'm constantly trying to combat against anti-Semitism, which at this point is just like impossible to do, while all of the other groups that normally would be tasked with doing this are so predisposed with slamming anti-Semitism accusations against those who they decide are anti-Israel, for those who they are more predisposed with deplatforming, people like myself.
No, I wish Armenians would do that. I've never gotten an invitation from Prime Minister of Armenia. He should probably send me an invite to go there, right? It's not a bad idea to come and show the country. I'm Armenian. I'm a Syrian. Syrians don't have a country. It's probably a good idea. You don't see that. You wish others would do that. So for me, as much as when I go into that, by the way, I'll give you one other side that, Israel's going to be like, yeah. This other side to me is I actually do believe they leverage Mossad to get intel. I actually do believe they use blackmail. I actually do believe they do that. So, there's nothing going on with Epstein. No. Michael Wolff.
This is how it goes, by the way. This is the other side of like tribalism. Repackaging racist concepts, bigoted concepts as though it's just like simple tribalism, right? Oh, dude, come on. Jews stick together. Blacks stick together. Why can't whites stick together is the follow-up to that. Okay? Anyway, this is the Trump Gaza with out of the goat.
And you too, my friend.
The Trump Gaza meeting that's taking place right now.
I said, how would you like to deal with him when you left? It's not easy. You did a great job. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We're going to work very hard on this.
I guess there's not really much updates from this.
It's not easy. You did a great job. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We're going to work very hard on this. This is my most important meeting. I've had important meetings. I don't want to insult anybody that we've met with. Just I had 32 meetings here.
Anyway, well, I'll cover the turkeys at the table memes in a little bit.
Did a podcast with him 2 months ago. And when he was at Epstein's house, the 100 hours of recording that he has with him, I said, how many times was Ehud Barak there? Am I saying his name correctly? Or Barak?
Ehud Barak.
He said he was there many times. He saw Bill Gates there many times. Why would the former prime minister visit the guy 30-something times? Just because the conversation's great? That's a little bit suspect, right?
Yeah. Where's Vinny, though? I don't know. I don't know where my goat Vinny is. But I do know that Patrick Bet-David's been steady ducking me, but he has no issues fucking talking to Nick Fuentes. One must ask the question, why?
Entering their countries and paid for by the people of that nation that were there and that built that particular nation at the time. They put their blood, sweat, tears, money into that country, and now they're...
Isn't it kind of negative for a person's rep to appear with Nick? No, that's the old method. I don't think you guys understand. I said this for the past 2 years. If anti-Israel sentiment grows in this country, I suspect that it won't be a real anti-Zionist movement, but more so will likely grow through anti-Semitism. Nazism is on the rise. What more can I say?
being ruined. Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before with different customs, religions. I've also been working relentlessly, stopping the killing in Ukraine. I thought that would be, of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But, you know, in war, you never know what's going to happen. There are always lots of surprises, both good and bad. Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way. It was supposed to be just a quick little skirmish. It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week. And they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides. Every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people, and some in cities, much smaller numbers, where rockets are shot, where drones are dropped. This war would never have started if I were president. This was a war that should have never happened. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country. Look what happened to the United States.
How would a domestic fascist, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel movement affect those being slaughtered today right now in Gaza? Would it mean a drying up of the well for Israel's military? No. No. Absolutely not. And Nick Fuentes, Nick Fuentes basically changing his narrative, changing his tune pretty aggressively in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination should show you that. These guys only want power, and they want power to enforce what they believe is the white American agenda. They will continue. They will continue their allegiance with Israel because Israel's fighting the Muslims, the bad guys. They don't like Muslims either. I don't even think it would even remotely change America's perspective on Israel, America's foreign policy, if there was like a full-blown fascist. They would say anti-Semitic shit. They would foment discontent against Jews for all of the reasons that they claim Jews are bad, like, you know, moral degeneracy, pornography, liberalism, multiculturalism, all of the same things that Nazis railed against. All the while, they would still be attached to Israel by the hip. It's a win-win for Israel anyway, because then the Jews that are afraid of living out their normal lives here in the United States of America would have no other option but to basically flee to Israel. Yeah, I used to tell people that Israel was in a nationalist conflict against the Palestinians and didn't mind Muslims more broadly, but increasingly they were trying to win their nationalist conflict against Palestinians by inciting a religious war against Muslims everywhere. No, that's precisely what they're doing. They've always been doing that. Islamophobia is a major factor. 9/11 was a gift. Straight up. Straight up. It basically brought what Israel considered to be the big war, a war against all Muslim nations, to the home front. Clip it what, saying 9/11 was a gift to Israel is not a controversial opinion at all. Benjamin Netanyahu certainly recognized it as such. I'm trying to look it up, but like, why does everything think the rapture is today? I don't know, because people are stupid and they're experiencing collective psychosis. Was good knowing you? Oh, God. You got me, dude. Oh, man. I said something that people are going to, once again, present to falsely smear me. Oh, my Lord.
And look where we are right now in just a short period of time. The only question now is how many more lives will be needlessly lost on both sides. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to this. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. But they have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. So I'm ready to discuss this. We're going to discuss it today with the European nations, all gathered here. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear me speak about it, but that's the way it is. I like to speak my mind and speak the truth.
Speaking of Russia, Donald Trump has come out and retriangulated the American position back to where it was before he got into the White House. New from President Trump, moments after meeting with President Zelensky on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is the time for Ukraine to act. In any event, I wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Then what did Putin say to him? It's not what Putin said to him. It's the fact that it was very clear from the jump that the concessions that Putin was demanding were so ridiculous and so maximalist that this shit was going to play out on the battlefield. So this is why I wasn't as hard, with the exception of like when he was dunking on Zelensky. I wasn't as hard on Donald Trump as I normally would on this issue alone, because this is almost entirely out of his hands. Do you understand? There is not really much he could do in this situation to change the dynamic. So it was either going full, like Brandon could have done a lot more when Ukraine had more leverage, but they obviously did not have that investment. They obviously did not care about it, but only because like it was the battle lines look different. You know what I mean? That's it. But at this stage, it's, you know, it's completely outside of our hands, you know?
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Mr. President, any update on your talks with President Putin, and do you still trust him?
I'll let you know in about a month from now, okay?
President Trump,
But he campaigned on being able to stop it. Yes, guys, he's a liar. What else is new? He also campaigned on stopping Israel. He campaigned on being the peace president. Why did you believe him? I said over and over again that this was a lie. I mean, I don't think any of you believed him. I think you're just simply bringing that up as a point, as though it matters. He lied about everything. He lies. Hello. Welcome to the real world, I guess.
Message to provide Ukraine with the security guarantees the same way as European allies?
Well, that's later down the road. We'll be talking about that. Hopefully, we'll be in a position to talk about that a little bit later on. It's a little bit too early to answer.
Why do you think Mr. Putin is not willing to meet with both of you?
President Trump, your message to President Orban, who is refusing to stop buying Russian oil.
Well, he's a friend of mine. I have not spoken to him, but I have a feeling if I did, he might stop, and I think I'll be doing that.
Thank you.
Could end for a long time.
Mr. President, have you been briefed on the latest alleged drone incursion into Denmark? What do you think of that? And
Where are they?
Into Denmark, Copenhagen. Denmark is saying that there were some drones that shut down an airport, possibly Russian sabotage. What's your response to that? Will the U.S. have a material response to that?
Well, I have no response until I find out exactly what happened. I know about it, but they don't know what happened. But we're going to find out very soon.
Sir.
Would you back up NATO allies? You said that you thought that they should shoot down the Russian aircraft. Would you back them up? Would the United States help them out in some way?
Depends on the circumstance, but we're very strong toward NATO. NATO has stepped up. When they went from 2% to 5%, that was great unity. Trillions of dollars is being pumped in, and they're paying us for the weapons that we send. But that was a big day. That nobody thought a thing like that could happen. You had countries that weren't paying 2%, and now they're all paying 5%. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of weapons they're buying, and they're buying them from us. They're buying them from the U.S. In the old days, Biden gave them everything, gave them $350 billion worth of money and weapons. That's a lot of money and a lot of weapons, and we got really not much for it. We gave the money to Ukraine to fight, and they've proven they're very brave. I mean, look, they're fighting, and this is a war going on 3.5 years, and people thought it would be over quickly because Russia's a big military power, and Ukraine, I tell you, they are good fighters. Got to hand it to them. They have a lot of courage, a lot of guts. Thank you very much, everyone.
Last week, he literally said, it's great for us. We keep selling the weapons to NATO, and they keep giving us money. So if you want to understand where his what his intentions are here, it's just he got the boss call. He got the Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Palantir, Northrop Grumman, Boeing boss call, and was just like, great, okay, we'll just, there's not really much you can do anyway. Might as well make money, I guess.
Everyone knows I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done.
Yeah, deeply engaged. Suck my dick.
Get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers.
Once again, full Brandon. Full Anthony Blinken, full Brandon. Just straight up lies. Straight up lies, being like, oh yeah, it was Hamas that ruined the deals. Like, no, that's bullshit. It's been bullshit. Israel killed principal negotiators. Like, Israel openly tanked these deals that they were trying to make. Every step of the way, it has been Israel that has ruined these negotiations. Every step of the way. Of course, all the debunkers and the fact checkers are not going to be debunking this and fact checking this, which is part of the reason why whenever you ask me like, oh, why did you dunk on the debunkers? This is part of the reason why I was dunking on them. It's shit like this that they don't actually present the truth on. And it's actually quite consequential, but it's a uniparty position, so you won't hear liberals actually correct the record on this either. Of course, most Americans have come to recognize the reality because no matter how dumb people may be, at a certain point, they're going to be like, okay, dude, it kind of feels like this is not corresponding to what Israel is saying about the situation. Because it's not like Israel's hiding it. They're like, no, we are not going to do this deal. We're not going to do this deal. We're never going to do this deal. F you. Suck my dick.
To make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great.
This is straight up. This is basically reading out an Israel-written public relations note. Okay, this is a press release. Straight up. This is identical to what Israel said. Oh, you're rewarding terrorism. You're rewarding terror by recognizing the Palestinian state. Now is not the time. Might as well have just like gotten a note directly from Benjamin Netanyahu. Here, by the way, talking points were leaked to Ken Leakenstein. The show U.S. diplomats instructed to call accusations of Israeli genocide a politically motivated and categorically false propaganda campaign. This is an action request. The department instructs USUN to draw from the talking points in paragraph 2 for the September 23rd, 2025 UN Security Council open briefing on the Middle East. It is deeply regrettable that council members opted to convene this high-level UNSC briefing on Gaza on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, knowing full well that the decision excludes Israel. Ugh. Everything is anti-Semitism, dude. It is a statement to how this council has prioritized performative grandstanding over serious efforts to advance peace. Yeah, you're deeply unserious. You're deeply unserious. You are actually getting in the way of a peace deal that was imminent, that is always destroyed by Hamas, of course, except it's not. It's literally always Israel. The main outcome has been to embolden Hamas and to undermine and disrupt negotiations aimed at freeing all the hostages and ending the war, which, again, I think we all know there is no interest from the Israeli side in actually securing the hostages whatsoever. In the last 2 weeks alone, Israel suffered 2 terrorist attacks in Jerusalem on September 8th and the Allenby border crossing on September 18th. We condemn these attacks, offer condolences to the families of those killed, and call upon other countries to join us in clear, explicit condemnation of this violence by Hamas and its ideological allies. Poor Israel, man. Extremists like the terrorists who killed 2 IDF soldiers on September 18th have shown their utter contempt for the people of Gaza by striking the very border crossing through which 45% of aid delivered to Gaza between May and September this year has passed. No country would willingly allow terrorists to threaten its people, and Israel is no different. Israel has the right to defend itself from groups that wish to do harm. You cannot do a genocide in an act of self-defense. Bullshit. As Secretary Rubio said, as long as Hamas exists, there will never be peace in the Middle East. Every member here has seen evidence of how Hamas has starved hostages and heard the testimony of freed hostages on what they endured in captivity. Oh... Some endure still, and we again demand Hamas immediately release all 48 remaining hostages, cease putting civilians to harm's way, disarm and surrender. This war could end if that happened. Once again, Hamas has brought forward all of those talking points in negotiations. Israel is the one that says, nope, we're not going to do that because we want to continue doing our ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement campaign. It does not matter. But Hamas refuses while Israel has accepted a negotiators' proposals. That's bullshit. Not real at all. Rewarding Hamas's refusal, whether with performative conferences or one-sided Security Council resolutions, undermines and delays achieving peace. It feels like I'm going insane when I have to listen to like official organs of justice and government officials just play along with this song and dance that it is always Hamas that's ruining the deals. But because Islamophobia is so pervasive and so powerful a force that it kind of doesn't matter, because most people are still, even if they're anti-Israel, they still find themselves engaging with this narrative. Like the "but Hamas" dispersal cloud is so goddamn successful. But Hamas refuses. Yesterday's conference was an ill-conceived publicity stunt. It will prolong the war in Gaza. Oh my God, it will prolong the war in Gaza. That's definitely not something that Israel wants, for sure. Embolden Hamas, rewards obstruction, undermine efforts to achieve peace both in the short and long term. Unilateral recognition statements don't alter the reality. There is no Palestinian state. It is also clear there is no credible Palestinian partner for peace at this time. The Palestinian Authority leaders from Ramallah are absent from New York this week because they failed to meet their own Oslo commitments. No, it's because Donald Trump banned them from entering the country. And those guys are a part of the Israeli security apparatus, by the way. They're not even favored by the Palestinian population. They are the second least popular entity in the region in the eyes of the Palestinians. Anyone who knows anything about Palestinian approval ratings knows that Israel is the number one enemy, and the Palestinian Authority is seen as the second least popular entity in the region because it plays a formative role in the Israeli security apparatus in the West Bank. It literally will kidnap and coordinate efforts to squash any sort of militancy in the West Bank that is engaging in a legal and moral right to resistance of occupied peoples. The commitments were basic, including renouncing terrorism and state violence and resolving issues through direct negotiations. The PA even failed to clear those low bars. The PA attempts to bypass negotiations through its lawfare, including at the ICC and ICJ, and it pushes for unilateral recognition of statehood. This diplomatic change is disappointing. Charade is disappointing. It is clearly fueled by domestic politics and has given Hamas a reward for refusing to surrender, as well as an incentive to keep holding hostages in subhuman conditions. We call on the council members of the UN to change course and focus instead on how to eliminate Hamas, free the hostages, and create a framework so Gaza can have a better future than the life they have endured under terrorists. Oh my God, just so many talking points, okay? If needed, allegations of genocide. These accusations are politically motivated and categorically false. They are a part of the deliberate, cynical propaganda campaign as Hamas attempts to win symbolic victories to compensate for total defeat in war. The United States refused those allegations entirely. The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against Hamas's terrorism. Israel's taken an unprecedented... Dude, good luck convincing any remaining American that is even remotely aware of what the f***'s going on here that, like, Israel doesn't control the country. Okay? Like, remember, these are U.S. diplomats being ordered to speak this way. This is line for line Israeli talking points. Okay? Like, this is crazy. The demands being made over and over again is that you are just a shill for Israel. You have to be, unconditionally, a shill for Israel. And yes, it is identical to what the bullshit Biden was saying, too. Biden trashed the ICC, rejected the application for arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, trashed the ICJ, and said there was no genocide. That's his legacy.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection. But let me be clear. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide. We reject that. We're going to always stand with Israel and the threats against its security.
It's just like, it's so embarrassing to see so many goddamn Americans genuflect this way as well when the population is obviously way more aware of what is going on, in spite of the horrible ways they think of, like, Muslims as a whole or whatever, or how fearful they are. And the only way out of this is by just increasing the intensity of the Islamophobia. It's going to get so much worse, I think, for Muslims in this country. I'm seeing it already. There's no other way out of it. You have to make it seem as though Israel is fighting this just war against pure evil. Islam is the pure evil that is destroying the Western world. It's already happening in a lot of European capitals. They're just going to keep pushing it. They're going to push it way past the point of, like, 2001, post 2001, post 9/11 Islamophobia narratives. So is rapture like happy hour? I mean, the rapture, dude. I just don't know. I don't know how you clear that up. I don't know how you get, like, the average American to understand that, like, Muslims are just like you, regular ass people. And they're not like a monolithic force of evil that's trying to destroy the Western world. They're just trying to live their goddamn lives. Why only 6K viewers, lol? Don't mean it offensively. I've fallen off, dude. Nobody wants to watch me.
The pride of being able to be here and do work that facilitates making things better for people. And in the greatest country on earth, next to Israel. It is.
Hey, look. This is once again, Trump's State Department spokesperson said Israel's the greatest country on earth.
The pride of being able to be here and do work that facilitates making things better for people. And in the greatest country on earth, next to Israel. It is. And it's an honor to be able to make a difference and to be able to speak in this regard with an administration that I love so much and that I feel genuinely represents.
Whenever I hear an American official talk, it feels like there's an Israeli hand shoved so far up their asshole that they're basically moving the American official's mouth. That's what it feels like to me. And it gets even the more evangelical they are, the worse this narrative is, the more insane it is. Like Mike Huckabee. They just deep throat it so hard. Here, look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
This is a nation that is the most resilient I've ever seen.
This is Mike Huckabee talking to Israelis in Israel at the 50 States One Israel conference that took place last week, where Israel brought 250 American state officials from each individual state in the United States of America to Israel. Okay? Here's what he had to say.
This is a nation that is the most resilient I've ever seen on earth. It may sound a little bit this afternoon as if I'm almost speaking on behalf of Israel rather than the U.S., but I want to explain that part of my advocacy in our relationship is because if you came to my house tonight for dinner and you came in and you said, "Oh, Mike, we like you. We really think the world of you. We just enjoy being with you. We're so excited to be here with you and have dinner with you. But your wife, we can't stand her. We don't like her a bit. I hope she's not going to be at the table." I would say, well, she will be. You won't be. Get out. Because
he's saying Israel is my wife. Except in this circumstance, your wife killed like 500,000 people and also you with a strap on.
if you were to insult my partner.
Oh, these guys, man. These guys is so nutty. It's so crazy. Macron says, I see an American president who says, I want the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize is only possible if you stop the conflict in Gaza. Yeah. After 2 years of strategic failures, Macron, in that 1P meeting that we just saw earlier, said nobody forgets the 7th of October. And by the way, we lost a lot of French people in these attacks. But after 2 years of war, what is the result? You have as many Hamas fighters as you had the first day, so it doesn't work. Which, again, the reason why this is bad is not because Israel has slaughtered so many people in the interest of like defeating Hamas or whatever. The reason why it's bad is because they're slaughtering people. Okay, trying to hit this from a tactical misstep angle is so idiotic to me because it betrays reality. Okay, it betrays the real reason why Israel is doing this. It has never been for some sort of military decision. It has always been for genocidal purpose. Their goals have been clear from day one. And in spite of the legal hurdles and the sanctions threats, the ICC and the ICJ were committed to addressing that reality. Do you think the part of the reason why the right is pushing so hard to support Israel is because of how it's said it makes people so they find it annoying and detestable? No. The reason why they do it is because they're stupid. The reason why they do it is because they also believe the narrative that like Israel is committed to defeating the evils of Islam. The reason why they do it is because they've always done it. They've always supported the wholesale slaughter of Muslims. Also, Trump is a massive dick rider of Israel, and they like whatever Trump likes. And Daddy loves Israel, so they're going to love Israel too. Don't you think Americans just don't care about foreign affairs? Israel is not a foreign affair. While that is true, Americans have been purposely kept blinded by the impact of American imperialism because if they were to think about it, they would go probably crazy. But all foreign affairs still pertain to domestic incidents. They still have an impact. Every dollar spent on a rocket, whether it's being used by the Israeli government or whoever, is a dollar that could be spent here. Is a dollar that could be spent on bricks to lay bricks to build houses. A dollar that could be spent to pour asphalt. Is a dollar that could be spent to educate children here, to feed the needy, to feed the hungry. But even outside of that, with respect to Israel, Israel also has an unimaginable amount of control and influence over your day-to-day affairs. There is no other country that gets to dictate and erode this incredibly important free speech, the First Amendment in the Constitution, in the same exact way. Israel dictates what happens in your lives in very meaningful ways. Think about it this way. You like TikTok? Okay, TikTok's algorithm is going to change now. Why? Because it was controlled by the Chinese state and therefore was not actually at the mercy of whatever the American State Department's interests are. And obviously this was a dangerous prospect for Israel. So now they took TikTok. Something as stupid as like your day-to-day activities on a social media platform is still at the mercy of a foreign nation state. And it will extend beyond other questions that you have, reasonable questions that you have, like Jeffrey Epstein. What was Donald Trump's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? Ask that question too many times, and maybe you're going to get banned. You might think in the short term that these are not concerns for you, right? Who cares? I just won't ask questions about Jeffrey Epstein. Who cares? I won't say shit about Israel. I don't give a shit. But eventually it will come for something that you do care about. And at that point, you will have no allies that remain. You understand? It was the one area where people could organize. It was the one area where people could at least like get a crumb of truth. And now social media is also completely captured by the same interests. Yeah. In a year, you'll only be able to talk about Palestine via carrier pigeon or putting a rolled up message in a bottle.
Board of Directors.
The TikTok algorithm is now secured.
The official deal later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of...
You mean like Twitter/Facebook was before? Yes, I do. Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. Do you like that? Did you like that? Do you think this is an own against me, dumbass? Why do conservatives come in here and act as though someone can't have any sort of consistency in the process? I've been anti-Israel for decades, dumbass. Do you think I'm not aware of the ways in which free speech is curbed at the behest of a foreign entity? I'm Canadian. This is an overview from the outside. You can have a conversation without getting upset. Oh, God, Canadian hogs. Jesus Christ.
American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be stored on servers operated by Oracle in the United States, protected from surveillance or interference by foreign adversaries. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States.
Thank God. I was so worried that people were learning the truth about what Israel's up to. Thank God. Thank God it's going to be retrained now, guys. Secured and retrained.
Outside of ByteDance's control. And TikTok will remain globally interoperable, meaning TikTok users in the U.S. will be able to see videos posted by users in other countries and vice versa. While I don't have a number on the specific deal, we do expect that thanks to the president's leadership and the securement of this historic deal, businesses using TikTok will generate as much as $178 billion in economic activity within the U.S.
It's too late. Everyone knows what Israel did. Yes, but you can just farm treats. You can just like float treats in front of many Americans and they'll just like forget about it instantly. We are so conditioned to be servile, you know? Who knows? Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.